agenda for today. So
yes.
Stay tuned.
I don't want to jump out of order here because we have so much to get going on.
I know, Connie can barely wait.
Connie is just too excited. Connie, sit on your hands, mute your mic. We'll get to you, I promise. No, it's exciting news. I think we're all kind of giddy with it, but all right. So go ahead, Kelly.
Are we starting?
It's 6:03. Yes.
Oh, indeed. Okay.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Starting with roll. I'm assuming that's what you want me to do?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Okay, Brad, I heard
Present.
you. Charlie.
Yeah.
Connie.
Here.
Daniel Brown.
Daniel is here.
Dave Wynn.
Here.
Elizabeth. Joe.
I'm here.
Lynn.
Lynn McIntosh isn't here.
Mary.
I'm here.
Gonna say, where's Mary? Richard Burns. Rick Radisky.
Here.
Tyler. Bill Barnett.
I'm here.
Bill Creel wasn't able to join. Christina. Daniel of Burlingame. David Norwood. Gail. See
Yes.
you.
Present.
Gail Dugan's present too. Nice. Welcome. Jeffrey Dutton. Jeremy Welsh. Justin. Ken Harvey. Laura Ogar. Leah. Margaret. Matthew. Pam. Eddie Baldwin, she sent a message earlier. Bob Pataki. Sandy.
I'm here.
Shalene.
I'm here.
Stacy Taylor. Teresa. Tony.
I'm here.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
Not bad for a beautiful summer evening where we would all rather do something else, but so thank you everyone for being here. We have a jam-packed agenda, so I'm just going to kind of get through. Oh, look at that. How nice. Even with sandals. I love it. If you could be sure to mute your mic if you're not speaking, just so that we don't get all the feedback in. That helps greatly. And if you need to speak up, there's a place to raise your hands at the top, or just pipe in if you're on the phone. I know there's not a way to do that. So let's start with subcommittee reports. Dave's right up there. All right. Dave Wynn, are you going to go?
I'm not engaging the public. Do you want me to just, okay. For preventative measures subcommittee, we completed the first draft document of what we're calling community awareness information. We submitted that information to Abby and Kelly for review. I just got off at 4:30. I had review meeting with the web review subcommittee to kind of talk it through so that they understood what we were trying to go for. And waiting to, I want to get a meeting scheduled with the subcommittee group, Kelly and Abby, in order to kind of move to the next step. So my question to Abby and Kelly is, talking with Kelly the other day, is looks like the week of July 27th is the earliest that you guys can meet. Do you have a particular day? Because it'd have to be probably around 6 o'clock.
I personally will be out on vacation and potentially out of cell service if things go correctly. I'll
Okay.
be out of cell service. But the following week I would have a lot of availability.
The following week, meaning the first week in August?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless, yeah, that would probably be unless Kelly, or, I mean, it is possible Kelly could do this.
That's fine too. I mean, it's up to you guys. I want to get this thing off the top dead center moving forward. So
Okay.
if you want us to meet with Kelly, we can do that.
The next 2 weeks, I'm going to be in and out. Next week, Abby's calendar is packed full for every meeting, like we talked, or every evening, Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
I could do the 28th, July 28th.
Okay. I'll send a meeting notice out to the subcommittee group and make sure everybody else is available. And then we'll get it set up. That's all I have.
Great, thanks, Dave. Sorry for the confusion there.
That's okay.
Okay, now on to the engaging the public subcommittee. I think that's Rick.
Yeah, we're going to make a first draft of the procedure for engaging the public when there are public drinking water wells nearby a PFAS investigation. So we have Ken Harvey's original document that came out of our subcommittee, and then the spreadsheets that we put together, and we're gonna come up with a first draft, what to do when there's a PFAS investigation and there are private drinking water wells in the area. So that's what we're going to be working on over the next month, and then have a draft available to the COG in August.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Anything else on that, or any questions for either of those committees? All right, the website review committee.
Bill Creel, he was not able to attend and actually suggested that I cancel the meeting, but I had already invited Dave Wynn to come to the meeting to share what they're producing out of the preventative measures group. So we just basically talked about that and saw any comments from that committee.
All right, thanks, Callie, for the update anyway. And then membership committee, Mary, I think that's you.
We'll be reporting on the survey during the meeting, but I would also like to encourage anybody who has not submitted their survey that there is still time. I'd be happy to update if need be. If you have already submitted your information and you don't see your area listed or your comments, please contact me, because just yesterday I did have someone contact me that they had sent their survey earlier and apparently I did not receive it. So if there's any kind of issues like that, please let me know. Thank you.
Mary, was there any talk about expanding membership or getting more members or anything like that? Or are you going to go over that when you talk about the survey?
We have not actually met as far as the membership team, other than emails regarding the survey. But I have spoken to Kelly as well about the fact of possibly contacting some of the communities that are of the sites and seeing if we could engage with the local contact person to see if there are citizens in that area that might be interested in joining the membership. So I think I will pursue that probably in August.
All right, wonderful. So any questions for any of the subcommittees or any other subcommittee-ish things we need to do? Oh, there's a hand up. Kelly, is that you?
Yep, I just wanted to let you guys know that we did just receive today, I received an email yesterday from a person in Howell who's interested in joining the COG. He officially submitted his registration form today. So we haven't given him the official approval yet, but I did invite him to attend the meeting today to listen in, since public is invited to him as well. So he is here, and we will introduce him officially next month, possibly.
All right, wonderful. Well, welcome, mystery person. Everyone be on your best behavior then. No acting up.
I think we can tell as long as he's comfortable with, you know, maybe coming on camera and talking to us. I think he's all right with giving his name.
Yes, his name is Jason.
All right, welcome, Jason. Okay, so I think there was discussion at the last meeting. Sorry, I wasn't able to be here, about the voting procedure. So Connie, I'll let you take that away.
Okay, on the voting procedure, what we're thinking about now for the quorum, if we regularly have 12 people attending the meeting, a simple majority would be 6 + 1, and that would be 7 people on the voting, and that would be a simple majority. There was question, Tony raised the question, when would we ever use a 2/3 majority vote? And frankly, I can't think of an example. If you follow Robert's Rules of Order, you'll see that they'll have that for dissolution or disbandment of an organization. But as Tony pointed out, and I believe he is correct, only the government, a governor can, get rid of the COG, not us individually. So I'm not sure we're ever going to really use the 2/3 voting procedure for any major events, because I can't think of what the major event would be. But you're welcome to chime in if you can think of something. It's just that I couldn't think of anything other than that. And I think can you tell me how many people we're on right now? How many members we have attending the meeting?
14.
See,
Top
so we're
rows, I
running
think.
between what, 12 and 17 or 12 and 18?
Yeah,
So we could
just like, normally there's at least 15.
Okay, all right. So we would have to pick the average of, from 12 to 18 or whatever. And that would be something like 15. So we can't do 7.5 + 1. So we could have, the majority would be like probably 9. Tony raised another interesting issue, and Tony, chime in if you're attending here. He raised the issue that what happens if we have only 2 people at a meeting? Well, if we set our quorum level at 1/2 + 1 for the simple majority, then that will be a non-issue. If there is a COG meeting with only 1 or 2 people, there's not going to be anything really accomplished. We have to wait until we get our quorum, and a quorum would be 1/2 + 1 of the members attending. So that's about where we are. Any questions?
Connie, this is Tony. I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted to clarify one thing. I think when we talk about quorum, that we're talking not about the number of votes that are needed in order to pass a measure, or to adopt a measure, but a number of people who need to be there in order to take a vote.
Correct.
And then it passes or not passes if it's half plus one.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna call on myself, which is weird, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Connie, how did we decide how we're gonna do a vote? I mean, are we just doing a vote of hands? Are we doing, because some people do call in on the phone, and I think it's important we include them. Was there a discussion on how votes are cast?
I was going to suggest just raising hands, but anybody on the voting committee, you can chime in. I was thinking hands plus whoever's on the phone. I would like the people on the phone to have a vote because they're attending the meeting, just not virtually. So I would say we just raise our hands.
Okay. And then people on the phone just do it orally. All right.
Or another thing we could do is we could have Kelly just call all the names right now. And you say A or nay.
You mean like
Mary?
this is a roll, this is Gail. You mean like a roll call vote?
Yeah,
That could work unless someone wants to, well, yeah, that would work. I was thinking if someone wanted to be anonymous, but that's not gonna work here anyway, even with the show of hands.
true. So I think we should do an oral roll call vote. That way that would include the phone people attending by phone.
Mary, you have your hand up?
In the discussion that we had previously, I believe it was discussed that we would operate on a roll call vote. And during that roll call, we would also speak if we were going to vote by proxy for another member.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
did discuss proxy voting. But the only way proxy voting works is if they get the agenda in advance, so they know what motion they want to have a proxy vote on for them. So you really have to have the agenda ahead of time so you can have your proxy ready to vote.
And sometimes we don't, this is Gail, sometimes we don't even vote on things, it's just discussed and there's no really decision made because there's no decision to be made. And how would you know that on an agenda? Because sometimes things come up as we discuss them.
Well, generally you should say motion to approve the voting procedures as discussed in past meetings.
Well, right, but like today we have here, I don't see us making any decisions on anything except for maybe the voting procedures. So I'm not
Okay.
sure that a proxy would work.
Mary, you have your hand up again?
Sorry,
it's
no, I
still
don't.
Okay. So I
Well-
need to do a better job at getting the agenda out. I think Gail's right. We haven't had to vote on a lot of stuff, but I would anticipate down the road, we would want to vote and come to some consensus on things. So I usually that ends up being a discussion we have periodically. So I guess we'll make sure that that gets noted in the agenda, or someone will bring it up as a formal vote. Does that sound, that's kind of what I'm hearing people say. That sound good?
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's what I think too.
All right. Wonderful. Thanks for all your work on that, Connie. I know
Well,
you
it was
did.
a group of us.
Thank you
team.
for all your work on that, you group of Connies. That was wonderful. All right, survey results. Mary? Wow, these are cool slides. Kelly?
So far, we have actually 14 respondents. I got 2 just since I sent out the update yesterday. So I will send that out unless anybody wants to add a new survey in the next day or two. I believe that with the surveys that have come in, they have been very strong in support of the fact that the COG with our own leadership seems to be working well for those people who did respond. I would certainly invite anyone who has a differing opinion to send that in if they would like. But other than that, it seems like we're pretty well represented throughout the state with the places that have responded. And I think based on the people who are even on this meeting, it seems that our regulars are the ones who responded most often. So I would invite anybody else to please forward their survey if they would like. Thank you very much.
Connie, you've got something?
Yeah, just a quick thing, if we could go back on that voting procedure. I would like to have, I would like to see a motion made to either pass the voting procedure that we just discussed or defer it to the next meeting, but we need to take action on this voting procedure. It could be this meeting or next meeting, but we should take action.
Well, then let's vote on it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, have Kelly take a roll call.
All right.
Okay, but first, to do that, someone needs to make a motion that says the voting procedure that has been proposed by the voting procedure team, we would like to see that motion become official for the COG to vote on. So basically,
Is that what
somebody
you
needs to
started,
make a
Angel?
motion to say to accept the voting procedure that was proposed.
Tony, you
And
got
then
your.
someone else has to second it.
Yeah, yes, Sandy, I just wanted to say, I think that we need, if consistent with the discussion and the presentation that Connie made, I think we need to figure out what that quorum is. And then once we have to pick a number or a percentage or something as to how many people have to be at a meeting in order to transact business.
Tony, that number is always going to change. With every single meeting, it will change.
Well, it can't though, because what happens if 2 people show up? Is that a quorum?
We said that it would be range between 12 and 18. That's generally what past history shows us, that's what our membership is coming. That's the number of people. So we'll have something between 12 and 18. And I believe our quorum should be somewhere in the middle between those two, the average of those two numbers.
So 15?
Not, well, a quorum, if we have 15 people attending, then we would need 8 people to pass the motion. But I think the quorum will change, 15, 18, it'll depend on the meeting. That's what's hard about this.
Well, no, I mean, what changes is the number of votes you need in order to pass something, but you need to set a minimum for the quorum of people who can
Yeah,
attend.
okay.
At minimum.
Generally, on Robert's Rules of Order, it'll specify that you have to elect 15 members. That's what Robert's Rules will say. But for us, because it changes.
So can I make a suggestion here? When I've been on other boards and whatnot, if we typically have 15 people, we say a quorum is half. And then we don't have a meeting if there's like one less than half. Or we don't do votes if there's like one less than half. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's how Robert's Rules works. Exactly.
So if we say we average 15 people, we would say a quorum would be 8.
Yeah.
we won't take a vote if there's 7 or less people here.
That's correct.
Does that sound all right, Tony?
That's fine, as long as we're in agreement on
As
that.
long as we have a number is what
Yeah,
you're,
yeah.
not a floating number, an actual
Right.
number.
Yep.
Yeah. What do the rest of you think? Everyone who hasn't spoken.
I agree.
That's
I
fine.
agree,
for
this is
me.
Gail.
I agree.
How many do we have today?
I think Kelly said, Kelly, didn't you say 15?
We have 14 today,
14 today.
14 at roll call. Is there any member who joined late and missed roll call? So I'm sticking with 14. Sandy, you're muted.
Sandy, you're muted.
I'm muted. Let the record show, that's the first time today and I've been on Zoom since noon. Should we vote on this then today so we can be done with this? Do we want to do a roll call vote on that?
Well, Dave Wynn has his hand up.
Dave Wynn, what you think?
My only question is, if this is a part of our, let's say we have our mission and everything else documented, is this a final document that we should have in the MPART, somewhere in MPART for review later? So I guess my question is, do we've talked about some things and we've made some changes. Do we make a final document and then vote on that final document?
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and then that will get the public to know what to expect when they come to a meeting.
Because we've
Right.
talked about three different things, which
Yeah.
I think everybody understands, but I think we need a final document that's sent out to everybody, everybody agrees, and we vote on it for the next meeting, because we've now reviewed the document and everybody's got a final document that we all agreed to.
That's a very good suggestion. I like it.
I do too.
you,
Anybody
Dave.
opposed to that idea? Connie, is your hand up because you oppose or your hand up?
Oh,
'cause-
no,
Okay.
I forgot to lower it. Please forgive
Okay.
me.
Just
Please
checking, that's
forgive me.
okay. Okay, so let's plan on that then at the next meeting. If
Okay.
Connie and that team can write up the final version of what we talked about, even
Okay.
get that out to everybody so everybody has a chance to look at it. We will vote, we will do our first vote on voting at the August COG meeting. I think that'd be great.
Okay, and I'd like to get Tony's input on the final draft.
All right,
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
perfect. All right, I have that down as an action item for the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Mary, you were done with your survey results? I think so.
Sorry. Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So Abby, take it away with the big exciting news from the EPA and what this means for us, because we're all giddy about it.
We're all giddy about it. Gosh, okay, so let's start at the basics. So EPA came out with what they're calling interim lifetime health advisories that are non-regulatory, non-enforceable. They're not going to be used for compliance. But what they are is a recommendation from the Science Advisory Board that EPA has commissioned. They are supposed to come out with their final report for these recommendations by the end of the summer. I've heard August, September is what I heard a month ago is what they were going to do. So when EPA puts out the Science Advisory Board's final report, we'll definitely take a very close look at this, because so far we are still looking at the different documents that they have supposedly used to come up with these numbers. So we want to take a very close look at that to really understand how they've applied it and what they've changed from previous. documents. Obviously, going from 70 parts per trillion to 0.004 parts per trillion for PFOA and 0.02 parts per trillion is a pretty big drop. So what I anticipate from EPA is that this whole conversation around these interim health advisories will start the process for developing long-term maximum contaminant levels for drinking water. Those are regulatory enforceable levels for the Safe Drinking Water Act for, water plants across municipal water facilities across the country. Obviously, we don't have any right now. As you all know, we don't have any MCLs at the national level for any of our PFAS contaminants. This would be a huge step. These particular numbers are a huge step forward for EPA to do this. I expect very rigorous, as I told Connie as we were getting started here, I expect very rigorous debate around these numbers. The rest of the country, frankly, is probably freaking out about these numbers and what it means for their communities. How do they achieve it? A lot of them haven't even done basic sampling of their water treatment plants across the country. So Michigan's in a pretty good shape. What this means, so what I see for the process for EPA is I understand it, and maybe Tony and Sandy have some additional insight in their dealings with some of the national boards that they're on, but the EPA is committed to putting out an MCLG, a maximum contaminant level goal, by the end of the year. I'm expecting that they will probably set that at 0. Usually when they set a health advisory that's lower than a detection limit, as they are here, they set the MCLG at 0. And then that goal then is part of the process that they use to start the actual public input debate that goes into development of MCLs. And that will probably take all of the way through 2023 before we get to some more formal and promulgated MCLs set by EPA, maybe even longer, but they have said they're going to fast track this. So we'll see what they do, but it will be rigorous debate. We'll have plenty of time to get into the science of how they develop these numbers. And then remember that MCLs are not just based on the health numbers, but they also take into consideration the economic, the viability of being able to achieve these numbers. They also take into considerations the what the water treatment plants, the economics to the wastewater treatment plants to achieve these numbers. So there's a lot of other factors that go into setting MCLs that aren't necessarily based on human health. So that's always been part of the Safe Drinking Water Act process for maximum contaminant level setting. So, and Ian Smith is on here, so he can always correct me if I say something wrong along with the Safe Drinking Water Act. But Gail, yes, you got a question.
Are there any states that PFAS is not on their radar, that this is like totally news to them?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I know that the Great Lakes states, we've all been talking about PFAS for a while.
Yes.
Some of them are just getting going on their drinking water sampling, but they've known about it. They've understood.
Okay, because I know.
There's still some states out there that I think, have maintained that they don't have PFAS problems because they haven't looked, but
that's what I was gonna ask, if some of them haven't even looked. That's why I was asking. So
I don't have a good feel on that national perspective of who's looked and who hasn't looked. There really isn't. I mean, there's a few other states that have done similar type work to what we've done in Michigan, but I don't think anyone's done a comprehensive look like we have for drinking water, wastewater, landfills, airports, all of our sites. I mean, we've looked at a lot of different segments and parts of our society to look for PFAS. And so we're definitely got a better handle on where we're going. So I think that's what I'm anticipating from EPA. This will be a long process. Don't expect that they're going to come out with final numbers this fall. That's not happening. The MCLG won't be enforceable. They will have to go through that whole rulemaking process to set an enforceable number. So we'll have plenty of time to adjust to this. What this means for Michigan is that, you know, we've always taken a precautionary and conservative approach for when it comes to human health. So in the cases where we have found residents with private drinking water wells with detections of PFAS, in almost all cases, not all, but most cases, we have given out filters. And that'll continue to be the case, is that we'll give out filters for those, you know, people that we think are associated with sites and have contaminants above, at this point, detection levels. We'll continue to do filters. There are, for the community water side of things, we are looking at a small segment of supplies that are below MCLs, but are above detection levels. So obviously, detection level for the state drinking water analytical method is 2 parts per trillion. And the MCLs are obviously 8 and 16 right now. So you are looking at the range between those two numbers. And so we've got about, Ian can correct me if this is incorrect, but I think about 150 supplies that fall somewhere in that range. And we're reaching out to those supplies to talk about additional ways that they can mitigate those concentrations. And it's not always an easy solution. So those are some interesting conversations. So Ian, jump in here and help clarify.
Thanks, Abby. I would just add that 150 is the correct number, but if you take into account the consecutive supplies, the ones we don't test, because they purchase their water from a primary supply, that number goes to just about 200. So the final number is going to be about 200 supplies that are either directly or indirectly affected.
Okay. Obviously, for our state drinking water program, we'll continue to use our MCLs that are, you know, set by statute and part of the Safe Drinking Water Act, but we will always take into consideration these health numbers. And so we'll continue to work with these supplies and give them additional help on seeing what we can do to try to mitigate concentrations. So I think, Ian, if you can jump back on for a second. I don't recall, do we have one supply that might have found Gen X? I don't think at this point we've found too many that actually had any concentrations of Gen X.
There are 3 total. They're all non-community supplies, so they're quite small. They don't serve, so a non-community supply, for those of you who aren't familiar with the nitty-gritty of the Safe Drinking Water Act, it covers what we call non-transient, non-community supplies. So these would be supplies which serve the same group of people for a portion of the year, in contrast to a community supply, which would serve the same group of people all year. So think school, place of business, childcare provider, things like that. So that's the long answer. Short answer, Abby, is it's 3 supplies out of all of them.
And do we have any that exceed for PFBS?
No, we do not.
Okay. So while those 2 are final health advisories, we don't think that they're going to really affect anything that we do here in Michigan. So any questions on these? I think the big thing with these health advisory numbers is it kicks off some much needed national debate on PFAS in general, and hopefully kickstarts a lot of our federal level partners into moving a little faster on some of the updates that we'd like to see, not just EPA. So questions on that? Anything else I can answer? Yep.
Tony's got his hand up.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation. Is the state, in terms of current MCLs and how they relate to these new health advisory numbers? I know that when the governor's science advisory panel made its recommendations, they had talked about coming back and revisiting the numbers based on, scientific developments. Is that going to happen? Or is the state going to wait for the feds to take more definitive action? What's the thinking at this point?
I think yes, probably to all of the above. We want to see the Science Advisory Board recommendations from EPA first. That final, like I said, that final report will come out at the end of August, September sometime. One of the members that's on the EPA Science Advisory Board was also on our Science Advisory Board. So Dr. Jamie DeWitt was on both. That gives us a lot of comfort that they're using similar logic and similar science. But we definitely want to evaluate what they've evaluated, how they came to those conclusions. And then I think we will take a closer look at if that changes any of our thinking, or if there are things that we need to adjust to be more protective for public health. In the meantime, it would take us probably another 18 months to promulgate new standards if Michigan was to do our own MCLs. If Michigan was to update our MCLs. In the meantime, EPA may be setting MCLs before we would get to that point. So it might be both. It might not be that we're waiting, but that the time it takes to get through a separate state MCL process versus EPA getting through the process might end at the same time. So we're going to consider all of it and make sure that we're, and like I said, even though these numbers won't be enforceable for us, from a health perspective, we're definitely going to take into consideration the science and the information that's behind these numbers to make sure that we're definitely taking that information into account for each particular site.
All right. Any other questions we got on this? Or it's pretty exciting news. I mean, it was pretty breathtaking, I have to say.
Yes. So let me turn it around just real quick. Then Sandy and Tony, you guys have got the ear of some of the national folks. What are you hearing from your contacts? Anything in particular?
I'm hearing a lot of engineers and water people in a bit of a panic of how do we test this low and what are we going to do? And I'm hearing that. Tony, you probably have more of a ear on the ground nationally than I do.
No, I'm just going to say I think that obviously in the community circles, there's the reaction is very similar to I think what's we hear from the membership here tonight, and I think that there's great anticipation as to where this is going to go next. Because obviously, Abby, and you know this, and Ian better than all the rest of us, there's a process, right, that has to be, pursued, and that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I'm also hearing that that there may be some additional action on another front from the EPA coming very soon. It's within the next week or two potentially that could impact things again in a pretty big way. So that's generally what I've been hearing.
Okay. Yeah, I've been anticipating some additional actions from EPA yet this summer. So we'll see which part of it hits first, because it seems like they promised a few more things in their EPA roadmap that should be blossoming here pretty quick. So we'll see. Jump in, Dave.
One quick question I have, Abby, is the initial health advisory was 70 parts per trillion. Now they've revised the health advisory for PFOA and PFOS. My question is this based on data, or is this my whole point in this is what is the real number that protects the health of the people within the country. Because if at this point 004 and 0.02 is the real number, then everybody should panic. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I have a phone a friend. Jen, Dr. Jen Gray is on. Jen, do you mind if I put you on the spot for a second? And one of the big factors, as I understand it, for this particular, and we, like I said, we haven't looked at the specifics of what the recommended recommendations are going to be from the Science Advisory Board. But one of the big factors, that as I understand it, is what they called, yes, phone a friend, is the relative source contribution. Jen, do you mind if I put you on the spot to help us explain relative source contribution and how that has changed over time?
Sure, but I would have to check the numbers. I'm not actually clear on whether that changed between the calculation for the 70 parts per trillion and this new interim health advisory. So what I can offer is if the group would be interested, and Abby, that would work for you, we could definitely walk through the calculations and how things have changed over time, if that would be helpful in terms of like the new way that the numbers have been calculated. We can put all the detail up on slides and just walk through a comparison if that's something that Abby, you think would be useful and the group thinks would be useful.
I think it would be probably pretty useful. And obviously we're not prepared today to do that. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Jen, because as we know, we don't know exactly which part of the algorithm and the inputs that they use to generate these numbers has changed for them versus what they were using at 70. But I'm assuming there was a change in the science that they updated from the 70 parts per trillion to these numbers that has, obviously caused a drastic decrease.
I think they switched their health endpoints, but I'd have to take a look at that. So the human epi studies, so the human epidemiological studies that are cited in this new PFAS and PFOA document are not necessarily new studies in terms of when they were published. But again, happy to go through, we can have all the citations and everything to have all the details available.
Okay. Teresa's got her hand up, and then Brad, and then I think John, you had your hand up too. So we'll go in that order. Teresa?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So in my understanding as a layperson, with this announcement, to me, that would mean every state that has set a standard would have to go back and redo everything that they've done. Am I understanding that correctly?
At this point, these are non-enforceable. So until EPA sets it as a national MCL level, then that number is probably going to be lower than what any of the states have said, unless they set a 1 or something like that. So say they set an MCL of 2 for drinking water, for PFOA and PFOS, because that's what they can achieve with the analytical methods. So say they set it at 2. In that case, for Michigan, we have the choice then of adopting the national standard or keeping our own standard. And I think, we want to be consistent with the federal level, so we would probably do that. But that would be our consideration. Each state would have that option. If they don't have a drinking water standard, then it becomes automatic, and the state can adopt those MCLs at the national MCLs from EPA.
Okay, well, I agree with Tony. This is alarming. So thank you so much for that explanation.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa. Brad?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. I took a quick look this afternoon at the technical fact sheets for the health advisories, and the relative source contribution values are the same. It's 20%. So that's what Michigan has always used. But the reference doses that they list in the technical fact sheet are extremely low. So they've looked at some new tox data, it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the part that I think we want to see how they've used that when they come out with their final recommendations. So I would say, to Dave's original point on asking the difference between the 70 and the current, let's look at their final report, and then we can put together a more of a layperson explanation of the inputs that we can put together for the fall meeting, so that it makes more sense to people.
All right, Joe, and then Rick.
Let me try to simplify this thing. What Abby has said is pretty good and accurate. I'm saying this based on long years of supporting EPA's rulemaking process as a consultant. So first thing I gotta say is what you're looking at on the screen right now is what we called risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So these are numbers based on a lot of assumptions that show these little numbers. And then the next step in the rulemaking process at the EPA is to go through the public hearings and then come up with the actionable levels. And actionable levels will be based on technical achievability and economics, affordability. So once we go through the process and then come up with certain numbers, then the affordability part has impact on the government and industries. So the product goes from EPA to the OMB at the White House. Then the final decision will be made at the OMB and by the president. So in my career, I have seen some of those final recommendations going through and became a MCL. Other times, for various reasons, they stopped at the White House. So as Abby said, we got a risk assessment here done by a group of professionals, and we got a long ways to go yet. So once the federal rules come out all the way through the White House, then state of Michigan can decide what to do, accept those or enact something on our own. Okay, hope that helps the process a little bit.
That does. So Joe, what I'm hearing you say is let's not get too excited. Don't pop the champagne yet. We got a long way to go on this journey. All right. Duly noted.
For example, one quick assumption is you're supposed to be so many pounds in weight, and you're supposed to drink how many liters of water a day, and you're supposed to live 75 years, okay? In these kind of risk assessments. So if you deviate from that, then obviously your numbers are gonna be a little different.
All right. Okay.
I think Joe just volunteered to be my new phone-a-friend.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I heard.
There.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, Rick, and then Teresa.
Yeah, just some of the differences. I've been looking into this a little bit, and the EPA 70 parts per trillion was, I think, based on animal studies. And the new values are actually based on human studies or human epidemiology. So what we know about PFAS in humans, our kidneys do not excrete it the way laboratory animals do, and we concentrate it more. So it's always been a challenge to use animal studies to predict humans because we don't metabolize it the way animals do. Animals get rid of it and we hold on to it. So that's one of the differences. And then if you look at the actual study that triggered this low value, it was based on, I think, diphtheria vaccine for one of them and tetanus for the other. So it was looking at, this was Philip Grangine's work on Faroe Islands, and he found immunosuppression of 7-year-old children given those 2 vaccines. So PFOA is I think diphtheria, and PFOS is tetanus. But anyway, the standard is set to protect 7-year-olds as the most sensitive endpoint, and it's to prevent the suppression of the immune response to getting the vaccines. So it's a real specific response, and this does not protect against cancer. They're still looking at, they think PFOA will be a carcinogen, and that will trigger another set of standards or another set of advisories. But it's really based on human studies, and it's a very specific endpoint related to vaccines in children. So, you know, how these translate to protecting the whole population, it's something to be concerned about for sure, but this is a real specific toxicological endpoint protecting children. So that's my rundown.
Interesting. That's fast.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Teresa.
Yeah, so in my layman understanding, I just want clarification. So Joe, you're really saying don't get too excited because we got a long road and these numbers may change, right?
Yes.
And with that being said, it puts me in a precautionary mode to say this is when people come in and lobby the people with power and money to change something that we know that is harmful. And if Rick just told us this is based on research of 7-year-old children, look at the life expectancy of how many times, as you said, we take in water every day amount that PFAS builds up. So to me, this is exciting, but it's alarming that these numbers could change. In my mind, that something that we feel would be beneficial could possibly change to meet somebody else's standard. If y'all understand what I'm saying, that means that we could be put at more risk for contamination, not just in our Michigan waters of surface water, well water, but nationally and across the world, if we're looking at to see these numbers change. And that's my lay opinion. I'm just a layman, and I'm just trying to clarify it and understand it in my layman's terms. Thank you.
I think that's a good point, Teresa. I think you're saying as citizens, then we have to also make sure our voice is heard.
Exactly. Because
so that we're not drowned out by voices that may have more money, more status, more power, whatever. Because you're right. I got through 7-year-olds. I'm done with 7-year-old.
And so what I'm looking at also, what I'm looking at also is the many thousands of PFOAs and PFAS that is not being regulated. These PFAS, which did they use? The 7 that they're regulating? Or did they use some that were not under regulation? So it's a lot of factors that come into play in my mind.
The good part of this, Teresa, is this gets this on the radar so that we can start getting, because part of the reason the rest of the family of PFAS chemicals isn't represented here is because we don't have research on it and we don't have the information toxicologically to be able to assess risk for it. So we can't do risk assessments if we don't have the information and the research to go with it. So because these numbers are so low, it really spotlights the fact that we need a lot more information. And so these numbers are going to continue to change because the research field is going nuts with the amount of research that's being dumped into PFAS in general. And so it's an exciting time to be, I mean, realistically, it's a very exciting time to be in the toxicological world, the epidemiologist world, environmental science, drinking water. We've got a lot to consider that we've not, really considered. We probably should have been considering 20 years ago, but here we are today. And so I think the actions of, as Sandy said, the actions of this group to be able to be a voice for the citizens for the entire country are going to be crucial, that people in the other states who don't even realize they should be at the table, that you guys are there to kind of highlight those citizens' voices, because there's a lot of industry, a lot of water treatment plants across the country that are just petrified of what this is going to cost them to try to achieve these kind of concentrations for their drinking water. So, and fear is never a good place to start.
Well, then that leads to the question, as we say, there's different manufacturers releasing different PFAS and PFOs. How do we know that the people or the water sources that are being tested are under the criteria that the EPA is monitoring, right? What if somebody's exposed to a PFAS that's not on the radar? Okay.
Great question. Great question. Can we take 2 minutes and talk about the unregulated contaminant monitoring program, Sandy?
Yeah, Teresa brought it up, I think. Yeah.
Great thing.
That's a good question. I think we all are
question.
afraid of the other 8,000 that we don't test for. Yeah.
Ian, do you remember how many PFAS are going to be incorporated in the UCMR 5?
Yep, 29 PFAS compounds.
An additional 29 in addition. So part of EPA's testing regime is not only to set drinking water standards, but to also start monitoring for some of those unregulated PFAS. And so they're adding another 29 PFAS contaminants to that family that will be required for water plants across the country to monitor for the next, I think it's 2 years, isn't it? As part of the UCMR 5 monitoring program, Ian?
Yeah, Abby, they generally take about 2 years, yes.
So that'll be 2023 to 2025. They'll be doing that testing on all the water supplies in the country. So about the time, they will have a pretty good database of information to know what other types of PFAS compounds might be potentially passing through water supplies that we aren't currently testing for. Michigan, again, we're already testing for, we're doing the EPA method, which has 18 compounds, and I think we've done some additional influent testing. So we've got a pretty good spread of understanding what our family looks like based on what the analytical methods are available. Go ahead, Ian. Do you want to?
Yeah, I just want to add one piece of perspective for the group. So some of the compounds that are going to be part of UCMR 5 are repeats of compounds that were tested under UCMR 3, and then some of those compounds, obviously, that we've tested within our state. Something to keep in mind: EPA has set a minimum reporting limit of 4 parts per trillion for their UCMR 5 testing. During UCMR 3, I believe the minimum reporting limit was something on the order of anywhere from 20 to 40 parts per trillion. So as technology has improved, they've opted to go back and look at these compounds again. So during UCMR 3, I think obviously the level with which they could detect was much higher. So they're expecting perhaps to see more this time. Now, for some perspective for the work, that we've done, our minimum reporting limits are 2 parts per trillion or lower for the compounds that we look at. So we've actually been held to a bit of a higher standard than what's being proposed for UCMR 5.
So I guess the bottom line is it's exciting. We're making progress. We have more progress to make, but hang on because we've got some work to do. So, and I would love to keep digging in the weeds here and hearing all about this, but we still have some more stuff to get to. And I don't want to lose sight of the time that we got 50 minutes to get through the rest of our agenda. So if it's all right, I'm going to move us along. Teresa, do you have one more thing or is your hand up? Because you didn't put it down. There we go. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. I had on our agenda, the next one was follow up on public notification. But Rick, I think you did that already. Did you on the public, engaging the public?
Yeah, we're going to be working on a draft for the private wells. Yeah. So.
Okay. So then I also had you on the discussion of the well water sampling and Lyon Township.
Yep, I will do both.
All right.
There was some talk about last month about sampling all of the wells, all of the private wells in Michigan, and that's a pretty tall order. And I think based on how the state has approached surface water, there are methods where you can sample a smaller subset of all the waters in the state, and that's how they do it right now. They have a 5-year cycle where they sample all the major river basins every 5 years, and they also have sentinel sites, and it's not all that complicated. But anyway, the whole goal is to say with some statistical certainty that the waters in the state are getting better or getting worse. So it's called probabilistic sampling, and I think you can approach the well sampling in a similar manner, looking at shallow and deep wells, and various ways to look at it. But I was thinking about forming a subgroup, and we have Bill Creel and Brad Venman, both are scientists, myself, and then some other volunteers. I know Lynn McIntosh was real interested. She's not on the call, but we'd like to make some discuss this idea in a small group, and then make some recommendations. Obviously, to do this right, USGS and the folks at Michigan State and Western Michigan need to be involved, the 2 geology groups in the state. But I think we can, instead of having just this massive number of wells to sample, we can kind of prioritize and help guide the selection of smaller subsets that are significant as far as telling the story about PFAS and private wells. So I guess if there's any individuals on the COG that want to be on our little subcommittee, let me know. But I haven't confirmed with Bill if he wants to be on it or not. But Bill was involved with the probabilistic sampling for the surface water, and so was I. So we understand the concept, and I think we can have a nice group of science and lay people involved with this to make a decent recommendation. So Gail.
Yes, I want to be involved if you guys meet at night. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna just we'll set up some kind of a meeting schedule. So
cool.
But
thanks.
Please send me an email.
I will. I'll follow up email. Gotcha.
All right. So that's the discussion on well sampling, and then Lyon Township. That was a really interesting meeting, and the purpose of that was we requested, engaging the public requested to do some case studies, and the case study was the Newaygo County, Walkerville, whatever, the biosolids application site. And that took quite a bit of time for for Aaron Asman, the project manager, to put together, and we appreciated it. It was certainly a good learning experience. And instead of having, the Eagle staff prepare, special meetings for subgroups, it was suggested that we attend these briefings for public officials, and this is a briefing put on by Eagle, by MPART, and there's public health people and Eagle staff, and it's to bring the public officials up to speed on the particular site. And there's already some dialogue going on in various stages. And I happened to sit in on South Lyon Township, and then also Stanton just a few days ago. And the meetings both meetings were really beneficial. The South Lyon Township, I don't know if I just picked a lucky one or not, but I was really impressed with the township officials were actually, the public works officials were actually going out and sampling the residential wells, contacting residents and doing the sampling, and they were getting the samples to Eagle for testing, and then as soon as the results got back, the Eagle project manager was getting them posted on the website. And it just was a real good coordinated effort between the township and Eagle, and I was very pleased to see that level of coordination and can-do attitudes on both sides. So that was a wastewater lagoon that had some wells down gradient of it, and the one that I sat in on Stanton was the same way. And what you can see from the wastewater lagoon situation, I mean, there's a lot of wastewater lagoons in rural areas, but luckily most of them have some hydrogeology and monitoring in place. It's not for PFAS, but the direction of groundwater, and it turns out that unfortunately for South Lyon Township, there were some down gradient wells that needed to be tested, and I don't know the status of the testing, but for Stanton, the direction of groundwater flow was completely opposite of any residential wells. So there is no residential well sampling for that particular site. But I just think these are really good for members of the COG to attend. And rather than have a bunch of emails going out to people, if anybody would like to attend one of these meetings, let me know, because I'm getting the emails from Kelly, and I'll be glad to send them out to anybody that wants to attend them. And you just sit in the background. You're not supposed to say anything in the meeting. But I think it's really good to see the cooperation and how the investigation is being handled. And then these investigations go live on MPART, on the MPART website a couple days after these meetings. So it's kind of a pre-meeting for going live. And I know Sandy attended the Clean Jeans Laundromat. I don't know if she wanted to say anything about that, but the two that I attended were very positive. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, I sat in on that one, and I noticed the same thing. I think they had some idea of groundwater flow anyway, but it was reassuring to me to see that Eagle was testing wells, both basically the other direction of where groundwater was flowing, as well as some peripheral stuff. That felt good. People were asking questions, which also felt good. So it felt like townships were really paying attention to it.
Yeah.
So
and I think one of the concerns we had was that, the townships would want to kind of cover that up. But
I can talk for like 5 minutes. I'm in a meeting, but it's not a terrible important part of the meeting, so we've got him on to.
How about we mute Dave for us?
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know where that was coming from, but no, I thought we were concerned that townships, would kind of try and cover it up and not get involved, but they were very engaged. And like I said, Lyon Township actually had their public works people assisting and collecting the well samples, and I think it's good to hear all that. The first part of the meetings are are kind of boring because they go through PFAS 101, and there are questions about, PFAS, not very many, but most, there are a couple of them, but it's really to see what's going on, how the township and Eagle are approaching the site, and they're all different. So I think, if you want to know how the sites are being handled, you can attend these meetings. And Kelly said they go live right after the meeting. So this is, talking with the township, and then MPART puts the information up on the website. So.
All right, so I guess if people want to participate in that, let Rick know. Because it was interesting. It was kind of reassuring to sit and listen to.
Yeah.
And
they're all during the day, so.
Yeah, they are during the day. That is the problem.
Mhm.
But they don't last very long. I mean,
No.
it's like maybe a half hour. So,
Yeah.
And if you're interested in being in that, I hope you're going to call it a well water sampling subcommittee and not the probabilistic subcommittee.
No.
That'll just be
It's well sampling, yeah.
well sampling. I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
good. I love that idea, and I think that's such an incredible idea to get some universities involved in that too.
Mhm.
That public-private partnership would be great. So,
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Any questions on any of that stuff that we've covered? We have covered a lot. All right, Abby, you want to give us some MPART updates?
Well, we got an unexpected good news as part of a tentative budget. We learned that Eagle will be getting $5 million to use towards residential well sampling. Now, the details are scant at this point, but what we know is that they're supposed to be used for grants for local health departments across the state to be able to do residential drinking water sampling. It's not necessarily for PFAS. It can be used for any contaminants. So we have areas that we struggle with nitrates and arsenics and all the other contaminants as well. But I really like Rick's idea of doing some probabilistic sampling, because there's a couple of things I'd like you guys to consider when you think about that. Not only doing a good cross section of the state and trying to understand potential problem areas, but we also want to keep in mind that we have certain parts of our state that have either environmental justice or have scarcity issues, that we would want to consider those kinds of things in this as well. So a proposal from the COG for residential well sampling could be something that we combine with this to think about how these funds are given out as grants to local health departments to be able to target specific areas around the state to make sure that those people who are potentially most vulnerable or most at risk do get an opportunity to get their wells sampled. So like I said, not a lot of details. This just came through as potentially in our budget. The budget is not final. So like any proposals, it's always subject to change, but this is what we are hearing, at least in our budget, that's coming. So just a heads up on that. And that'll be work that will be handled out of our drinking water environmental health division within Eagle. And so we'll be working closely with them. So that's good. That's exciting because it also fits in with some of the other initiatives that we're looking at doing. Other thing I'll just give you a heads up on, and I should have pulled up the numbers before I came. So we have what we call surface water quality values for those facilities that might be doing discharges to streams or rivers, or doing if they've got a groundwater plume that might be entering a surface water body. The surface water values are something that, if you're discharging through a pipe, it has to meet these values. So they are going to revise the PFOA number, and they're also going to update and establish a surface water quality value for PFBS. We expect that this should go live maybe by the end of this week, early next week. These numbers are really not going to affect many facilities. it's going to be a very small number. The driver for surface water quality values will continue to be PFOS, which is at 12 parts per trillion for surface water and 11 for PFOS if it's a drinking water. So like Huron River is a source of drinking water, so they would have to meet the 11 parts per trillion for PFOS in that case. We'll get you a copy of this as soon as it comes out. But PFOA, I believe, hold on a minute, let me go back to my notes from earlier in the day and I'll tell you what they are. It's going to be an update.
Mike, if you go to your Tuesday MPART touch point, the charts in there.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
PFOS 11 parts per trillion. PFOA is 66 and PFBS is 8,300.
Right. So one of the advantages to having PFBS in there, although it is a high number for a surface water quality value, it gives us an idea of what a short chain PFAS will look like for discharging to surface water and for treatment technology. So there's twofold benefit for implementing this under what we call Rule 57 for surface water quality. So anyways, just a heads up on that. Like I said, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference to our facilities. We don't really have too many facilities that struggle with meeting the PFOA number already. And even if it's lowered, again, it still won't be too much. And we certainly don't think we've got any that are going to struggle to meet PFBS. The driver for surface water quality will continue to be PFOS, which isn't going to get updated. But just know that this will come out. If you've got questions, we will certainly get this to you. We're looking at writing up a My Environment article. So as soon as we get that final, Kelly will send that out to the group. So you guys have a way to read through this. This is the whole surface water quality and Rule 57 stuff is enough acronyms to make your head boil pretty quickly. So anyways, call us if you got questions. The additional thing I wanted to just mention, Great Lakes PFAS Summit. We did call for abstracts in June. We've received 85 abstracts. Right now we're looking at December. Let me go back to my calendar real quick, make sure I get you the right dates. December, I want to say December 5th and 6th and 7th. So 5, 6, 7. We'll be doing our virtual summit again, like we have done in the years past. Again, really focusing on making sure that we're making this information accessible to all of our partners across the globe. Because this is it's important information. We are shortening it down from a week to 3 days, but it's going to be a little bit more condensed and a little more compact. We'll probably have enough room for about 25 good abstracts out of this. So we haven't done abstract selection yet, but this is what we've got. So I'm pretty excited about that. So just save the date for December 5th, 6th, and 7th for our Great Lakes PFAS Summit. All right, I think that's most of the updates. I think, Kelly, is there one more slide for me? Okay, so news sites like Rick and Sandy talked about, Lyon Township wastewater treatment plant. Clean Jeans is a laundromat. I think we're going to see a lot more of our laundromats on here. And then Stanton wastewater treatment plant again are the newest sites. You'll see those in the red squares on the thing. So we are now up to 222 MPART sites. And like I said, we'll continue to add these. We've got another 5 that are in the queue. So we'll just keep adding them as we go and keeping things rolling. So Gail, go ahead.
What is the significance with laundromats? Is it just their location, or is it something to do with the laundromat itself?
It's not the cleaning products. I think it's the materials themselves. So if you think about the kinds of things that go into laundromats, they may
Your
do
rugs and that type of thing.
they may do rug cleaning. You've got a lot of your clothes that might have some type of waterproofing stuff on there. Mike, Jerry, help me out. I know you want to jump in here.
Yep, Tide used to have PFAS in it up to 2013, along with other products and fabric softeners. Allegedly, all of it came out in 2013-ish. So what we
But we're still
have, a lot
living
of
with
it is laundromats with surface water discharges, lagoons. So if they've been in service for 25, 30, 40, 50 years,
That's
and
all
50
sits
years
there.
for those of us, that's only the 70s, so 1970s. So some of us have been
You're
around a
making
little
me feel
longer than that.
old.
So unfortunately, it's just
It's
the
there.
materials that they were using to do the cleaning with, and then also the circumstance of having a lagoon system and then either spray irrigating with this water or having a leaky lagoon. And as Abby was saying, then products that we use, clothing, fabrics, whatever it might be that were treated waterproofing, or originally your clothing, and still today, probably has some PFAS in it from manufacturing. In the manufacturing of clothing, it's been found that they still are using PFAS to assist in the manufacture of the clothing. So, yeah, so the products used to clean with, and then the products, or I'm sorry, the clothing and other things, especially if somebody were washing in the big laundry items, the front loaders, throw rugs and things like that, which were treated with either Scotch Guard or some other things that would give you a whole lot of PFOA coming out of that. So, yes, an unfortunate circumstance.
Wow.
That's the big difference that we see between the wastewater treatment plants and the laundromats, dry cleaners, is that it's mostly PFOA. So we don't see a lot of I mean, you can still find PFOS, but it's mostly PFOA. So it's a little bit different type of PFAS, a little bit lower concentrate, not really screaming high concentrations, but compared to some of the PFOS numbers we've seen, but it's definitely still there. So you'll be seeing where the dry cleaners come on board as well.
Okay, see, this is new to me. That's why I'm asking. So, okay, so, and the PFOA is still a forever chemical and it still is a area of concern. Got it.
I don't know if it's a good thing or not.
No, I don't mean it that way, as a good thing.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say PFOA is still very toxic, but it doesn't bioaccumulate in the fish like we see PFOS. Okay. So if there's any good bright side to this, PFOA is not being found to the degree that PFOS is.
Do we know how it reacts in the human body with the breaking down in the liver and kidneys and all that stuff?
Well, if you PFOA had the lowest interim health advisory, so 0.004, which means it's more toxic than PFOS in the human body.
Okay.
It bioaccumulates and takes, I think, the longest to leave your body. So we don't want it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we don't want it.
So I'm glad Tide got rid of it. All right.
Thank you.
Any other discussions or anything going on in other communities that we can share or hear about? Any local events, current events? Tony jumps to the top, and then Daniel. All right, Tony, take it away.
This isn't about local event updates or events. Just a couple of general points I wanted to make. One, I first off, because I was not at the last meeting, I was at the national conference. I wanted to just take the opportunity to thank Eagle and MPART, Abby, Andy, your leadership in the action taken on the public notification at the last meeting, and the letter that was written, I think by Aaron Keatley of Eagle. That's something that's I think it's been a lot of work's been put into it, and that's greatly appreciated. Certainly by me, yes, thank you. I also wanted to point out one other thing that I learned at the conference that was a bit troubling to me, and I think it's on your radar screen within MPART or perhaps MDHHS, the action levels for fish, which I believe I've been told are under review. I think they were set about 10 years ago. So, and there was a presentation made by a scientist from the Mount Sinai Medical Center there in New York. And the numbers that they were talking about for action levels, and this was before the EPA announcement, were quite a bit lower than the Michigan number. And I think that like in the 14, 15, 18 parts per billion, something like that. And I don't know if there's anybody here who can address where that stands at this point, but my understanding is it's under review, and I just wanted to check on that.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Tony. That is something that we are in current discussions on. Is DHHS is in review on that, and so I will check with them to see what their next steps are. But last I heard, they were still going back and looking at the data and trying to understand what that number should actually be.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks, Tony. Daniel.
Yeah, so yeah, Tony provided a great segue. So we got a couple things going on. We finished up a project with the Ecology Center. The Ecology Center was leading a project on fish sampling. They collected a bunch of fish from the Huron and the Rouge rivers. And that was a really interesting project, engaging anglers to collect fish and replicate the protocols for collecting and avoiding cross-contamination of the fish and that sort of thing, but also taking the step of trying to figure out how PFAS accumulates in different organs within the fish. So it'll be really interesting to see what the data shows on that, but the data collection phase of that is over, so eager to see what comes of that. We also are working with the river walkers through HHS, and just want to give a shout out to that program. We have two really good energetic river walkers this year. It's been a delight to work with them. And Harry Castle and Carolyn Cook have been really just excellent at lining that up for us. And it's been a really great program, and we're learning a lot through that. It did lead, because we sort of ramped up the Riverwalker program right as the EPA advisory was landing. It spoke directly to everything that Tony just talked about. So how is the EPA advisory going to, trickle down and affect the fish? How are these other research studies that are coming out going to affect that advisory? And especially because we actually just got a welcome relaxation on the Huron River for eating fish in the lowest extent of the Huron River, but then to go back and think about the higher toxicity and lower thresholds, and then considering that these guidelines are based on relatively old numbers at this point. We've had a lot of discussion about how to communicate that along our river, and how the river walkers should communicate things that are sort of beyond what the guidance says at this point, since the science is pretty clearly, I think, pointing towards a level of higher toxicity and lower thresholds needed in fish. But that's what's happening in our neck of the woods.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, Connie. Tony, I think you just forgot to put your hand down, or maybe you need to talk more, but
no, hand's coming down.
Yeah, for Daniel, this is Connie. The Ecology Center, you said, collected fish samples in the Rouge River. Can Wayne County, can we get access to that data? Who would we contact? Because I would like to see the fish data.
Yeah, so I mean, the intent is to do a peer-reviewed study and both, well, all three organizations that were involved. So Friends of the Rouge, HRWC, and the Ecology Center were all involved. And once we had that data in hand, the fish had to be freeze dried and sent off to be processed at credentialed labs. Once we get that back, we'll be happy to share what we got, what numbers came back. We're eager to see what that says and eager to get feedback on it. So absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
I'm calling on myself because I can. I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm sort of wearing a different hat now, but the Great Lakes PFAS Action Network has a re-granting program that we're opening to, I think it's the end of July. Tony, you can probably help me, for communities that want to do things like maybe some foam testing, fish testing, water testing, I think maybe blood testing. It's not a lot of money, but I know there's a lot of communities that maybe have some questions that this could help do some community support. So if you're interested in that, go to the Great Lakes PFAS Action Network website, and there's a form there that you can fill out for some re-granting funds for communities. You don't have to be a nonprofit or a 501c3 or anything. It's really pretty painless to do. So there's that opportunity there too.
Sandy, what is a re-granting program?
So this is money that has been given to the GLPAN through foundations or grants that we're trying to pass along into communities, because I think most communities find, like Connie said, you've got questions about things, but you don't really have access to the resources or something to do that with. So we're trying to get money back into communities so they can do some of this. Maybe there's people that need some test kits, or maybe they need help with, I don't know, web support or town hall meetings or putting on educational things. Any of that stuff could be done with that re-granting money. So.
Okay.
Connie, is your hand back up or? Oh.
Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else we got to talk about?
Oh, Sandy, I do have one question. This is Connie again. One of the things that has always struck me in the last couple of years at these COG meetings is how the Department of Health and Human Services in their PFAS 101 uses data that ends in 2014. It is such outdated material that I would really love to see them get new data, do some research, make the health data or the health studies, look at it in 2021, 2022. Don't be using stuff that's from 2014, especially given these lower interim health advisory numbers from the EPA, because we look like we're really dated. So it's more, I've asked this at least 2 or 3 times before from the Department of Health and Human Services, and I never see anything that's ever updated. So I think the Department of Health and Human Services needs to get their health data, their risk data, their studies updated, at least to 2000, for God's sake. I mean, 2020.
Yeah, I think, Connie, I've asked a similar question about getting the slide updated. I know we've got updated information, but I think getting that particular slide that they show frequently updated. The good news is we're currently in the process of starting a MyChem analysis to specifically get that same kind of data from Michigan residents, so that we'll have, like an assessment of the baseline concentrations of average Michigan residents across the state for all kinds of different contaminants. And so we will have PFAS included in that assessment so that we don't have to look at the national PFAS levels for the country. We can look at, okay, what's the baseline for Michigan residents and actually compare it more locally. So we're in the process of collecting that data, but it does take a while. So usually by the time they get the data and get it all assembled and then do the statistics and then do all that, you are going to be a couple of years behind the actual data. So I would say I will ask the question of DHHS again when I talk with them tomorrow, but I hear you, and I was thinking the same thing, that we needed an updated slide to go with that
Yeah, thanks.
conversation.
Mhm.
Mary.
Hello, I'd like to ask Daniel, when they did fish testing in our area, it took approximately 8 months to get results. Have you heard any timeline?
It's presumed to be faster than that. So so we wrapped up sampling very end of June. And getting the fish processed, so we had them in freezers until the very end of June. So they were just sent off, and the team is hoping to get those back in the fall. So whatever that is, 3-4 months. But one of the batches, if not multiple of the batches, I know they had to send to Germany, for example. So it's there's some shipping time, there's some processing time, and all that. So I would expect 3 to 4 months is kind of at the minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, this is Connie again. Just a quick question. Wasn't there citizens being sampled, having their blood sampled in Grand Rapids? Or Plainfield Township or something like that? What's the status of that?
Well, I was thinking about that. This is Sandy. We're part of a multi-site study, both northern Kent County and the Parchment Cooper Township area in Kalamazoo County, as part of a multi-site study run by ATSDR, as well as the state of Michigan. I could see if Yost, who's the researcher on that study program, would come and do kind of an update if people would be interested in that as well. As I was listening to people, I was thinking I may send out an email and just get ideas of what people would like on the agenda for this too, because it sounds like we have a lot of educational opportunities. So if that's something people would be interested in, I can ask him.
It would be great, I think.
Yeah, there is a lot of there's a lot of things that are being done on understanding the PFAS concentrations across the state. So we've got, as Sandy talked about, we've got a North Kent exposure study that has already been done. We've got the Cooper Township and Plain and North Kent County, Rockford area, Belmont, that are participating in a MyPES, and then that is just Michigan based. And then they've also, because of the number of participants that they had, they've also are participating in one of 8 locations in the nation that have been selected to be participating in this national PFAS study. And so those same residents that participated in the Michigan study will be participating in the national. That's just starting, so I think that will take several years to go through the process and get all of the sample data and then look at it, how Michigan might compare in those 2 communities to the national level. We're also doing the PFOAMs, which is an assessment of firefighters across the state for PFAS and exposure. And so that is, I think that's a surveillance, not an exposure assessment, but I think it's a surveillance. And then it seems like there's one more I'm forgetting. Hold on, let me dig up the website.
Is there something in Oscoda? Tony, were you guys, Dave, Wynn? Was there something in Oscoda?
This is Tony, there's a health assessment or
A prevalence assessment?
whatever, yeah, a testing program that's still in the works. I think it's inching towards implementation.
So think of ideas. If you'd like some stuff, we could bring that up. The one thing I was gonna bring up too is are we planning on a meeting in August? Sometimes COGs take August off. I think it's our COG, so we can decide. Are we planning on having the meeting in August? I have down right now, the agenda items would be voting on the voting. And MDHHS was looking at some kind of relative source contribution. And that was my note, so I don't really know what that meant, but some kind of slide about that.
I think that would actually be for September, October, when we
Okay,
hear
we'll
back
take-
from the EPA Science Advisory Board. So
Okay.
probably not in August, but that would be an August 9th meeting if you guys want to keep it. I know we have taken that month off in the past, but that's entirely up to your membership.
What do you guys think?
I smell a vote.
I smell a vote. Come on, you guys. It's your group. What do you think?
Well, is there really anything that's pressing that we need to talk about in August? This is Gail.
Well, we need the voting procedure wrapped up,
True.
but if we don't meet, we don't need to vote. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, right. Daniel, you have your hand up or are you voting?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for us, there's not, there's nothing super pressing other than, as we were talking through kind of the last few items and thinking about content, and I'm kind of in this odd place where I feel like I'm not sure what questions I should be asking. I think the EPA advisory and some of the other studies have kind of just thrown me off a bit on even sort of what content to be looking for at this point. But hearing about other things that are happening around the state or even around the country that might inform us would be useful. Whether or not that needs to happen in August, I'm not sure. But if we're not voting on things, maybe that it's just a different meeting. Maybe it's just an informational meeting or something. Could be good, but I don't have strong feelings on meeting in August. I don't feel like there's anything super pressing for the moment.
So what if we do this? Kelly, can you just do a roll call? And if people want to meet in August, say yes. And if you want to pass in August, if you don't want to meet in August, let's say no. And let's just see what happens. Let's do an experiment.
But you're on mute, Kelly. There you go.
Hey, Brad, yay or nay?
I'm ambivalent. I don't think I'm going to be out of town, so either way is fine with me.
No, you don't get to say either way. No, we'll be here all night.
All right, then let's not.
Okay, there you go. I like a
Taking
man
my
that's
thoughts.
decisive. Okay.
Carly. Yes meeting, no meeting.
I think he might have slipped
Charlie
out.
left.
I think he's gone.
Connie.
No.
Daniel.
No.
David Wynn.
I think he also left.
All right.
Joe.
Oh, they are slipping out the back door. Joe's gone too. I'm gonna say no to all the ones that didn't for the end.
Great lesson learned. Do not wait for the vote at the end of the meeting. Mary Blanchard.
No.
Rick.
No.
Now, if anybody's going to say yes, that's going to be a problem. Bill Barnett.
No. What's What are we gonna do about, I'm teasing, the quorum?
Gail, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Mansowitz, and no.
Gail Dugan. I think he's the one that I muted. He's on the phone, so he needs to do what? Star
6.
I think it's star 6.
Star 6 to unmute yourself, Gail Dugan.
Did you get that vote yet?
August meeting or no?
Yes.
Yes, there you go. Sandy,
I say no.
Shalene,
No.
Tony.
No.
I saw Stacy Taylor join late. You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Just give us a thumbs up, Stacy, or a thumbs down. That might be easier. Oh, she says yes.
She says yes, have a meeting. Teresa,
No.
I don't even need to sort it. I can see it's a no.
We have 11 no's and 2 yeses. So it sounds like the majority are saying no. I don't even want to talk about a quorum because I'm still confused. But I say we're going to skip the August meeting. We can communicate by email if there's something pressing that comes up. And I think we can go from there. Mary, you got your hand up? Is that for
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
So let's just confirm then our next
Oh,
meeting.
Teresa, you got your hand up?
Yeah, my computer been acting crazy. Did you hear my response?
I don't think we did. Did we?
I said no.
Okay, there we go.
Yep,
Oh yeah, we've got it there. All right. All right, so our next meeting will be, oh, Connie?
Yeah, just a quick thing for Abby. Abby, if you're meeting with the Department of Health and Human Services tomorrow, I would just like to put in a plug for Wayne County. Detroit has more fires than any other city in the entire state of Michigan. Our firefighters should be one of the first people to be studied for PFAS concentrations in their blood. And the second thing is, on behalf of the citizens of Wayne County, we're probably more exposed, being the most industrial county in the entire state of Michigan, having the most landfills in the entire state of Michigan, and the most hazardous waste facilities in the state of Michigan. Our people should have their blood examined for PFAS. So just a little plug for a community that, or for a county really, that is probably the most impacted county in the state of Michigan.
Well, let me tell you the good news, Connie. The Detroit Fire Department has been a resounding yes. They absolutely signed up. I think they were the first ones to sign up to do the firefighters surveillance and assessment for the PFOAM study. So that's been excellent, and they've been great. Matter of fact, I think they got near 100% of their fire department or firefighters to actually sign up. So it was a great success on that. And the good news with Detroit is your water's been good for drinking. So yes, you do have some industry, and yes, we're working on following up on those things. So
yeah, but don't forget, Abby, that we have people on residential wells near the landfills.
Yep.
So don't make the assumption that everybody in Wayne County is on municipal water, because that is not true.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that is so important for people to realize across the state. While 75% of the state is on municipal water, there's still 25%, and they are not just in rural communities. They're in very urban communities that have still have residential drinking water wells. So that's a good point, Connie.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Stacy. Stacy Taylor, you got your hands up and I think you're on mute. No, you're not.
Okay, she's not muted, but we don't hear her. So let's see.
We
Yeah,
can't.
we
You could type in the chat.
You could type in the chat.
It's the little chat things up in the top right corner. So.
Oh.
No.
Yep, we can't hear you.
Sorry, Stacy.
And I can't even read lips that good.
No, or
All right.
I don't think there's a way for us to.
Yeah.
unmute
Stacy,
her
can
either.
you email us? I think she's giving up.
I think she says she's good.
Yeah, okay. Email us with your question, because I do think it's important. I'd like to hear it. Okay? All right. All right. So I think with that, we got through our agenda. It's 8 o'clock. So I think we did it. So everybody go enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll see you all in the fall. Ooh, that sounds weird. All right.
We will see you September, I think 13th. So
All right.
happy summer, everybody. Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Abby.
everybody.
Bye.
Good job.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Feel like you should stay and wait.